In this video, we will establish two results. The first one is a linearly independent set of vectors in an n-dimensional vector space V over F can be extended to a basis of V. We have already proved in one of the videos that if we have a set of vectors spanning, a basis can be extracted. So from a set of spanning vectors, basis can be extracted, but from a set of linearly independent vectors, we can extend that to a basis. Then another result is this: if W is a subspace of a finite dimensional vector space V, then dimension of V mod W is dimension of V minus dimension of W. So first we will establish the first result. So the statement goes like this: if V is finite dimensional over F, and if U1, U2 and so on UM are in V, which are linearly independent, then we can find vectors U suffix m plus 1 and so on U suffix m plus r in V, such that U suffix 1, U suffix 2 and so on UM plus 1 and so on UM plus r is a basis of V. Now since V is finite dimensional, it has a basis. So we will take that basis as V1 etc. Vn. Now these span V and the vectors U1 etc. UM also span V, because we can have the superset also spanning. That result is also already established. So we have by corollary 1-2 theorem this. There is a subset of these of the form U1 etc. These means these vectors of the form U1, U2 and so on UM. So these are retained as such. The reason is they are linearly independent. That's given to us. So Vi1, so it is there in this corollary, which is proved in one of the previous videos. V suffix I1 and so on V suffix IR, which consist of linearly independent elements which span V. So now we are going to just rename this U suffix, V suffix I1 as U suffix m plus 1, V suffix IR as U suffix m plus r, so that the lemma will follow. We have the same expression, the same set of vectors here, and they form a basis. So a linearly independent set of vectors in an n-dimensional vector space V over F can be extended to a basis. Now next lemma is this: if V is finite dimensional and W is a subspace of V, then W is finite dimensional and dimension of W is less than or equal to dimension of V, and dimension of V mod W is dimension of V minus dimension of W. Now if n is the dimension of V, then any set of n plus 1 elements in V are linearly dependent. So this is known to us. Now in particular, any n plus 1 elements in W will also be linearly dependent. Thus we can find a largest set of linearly independent elements W1 etc. Wm in W, and m is less than or equal to n. So linearly independent elements. These are linearly independent elements with m less than or equal to n. Now if W is a member of capital W, then by including with these linearly independent vectors one more element, they become linearly dependent, because that is chosen as the largest collection which is linearly independent in W. So when we include one more to that, then automatically that will become linearly dependent. So linearly dependent means there exist scalars not all 0, such that the linear combination is 0. Now we claim that this alpha is not equal to 0. Suppose alpha is 0. Then by the linear independence of the Wi's, we would get that each alpha I is 0. So if this is 0, already these are linearly independent, so your alpha i's will also be 0. So that's a contradiction to the known fact that W1, W2 and so on Wm along with W is linearly dependent. So alpha cannot be, it cannot be a 0 scalar, it should be non-zero scalar. So that means its inverse will exist because it is a non-zero scalar. So W, now we retain this one side, take the rest to the other side, and this is what we get. So this implies that W1, W2 and so on Wm span W. These vectors, they span W. Thus W is finite dimensional over F, and it has a basis with m number of elements where m is less than or equal to n. So that means W1 etc. Wm form a basis of capital W. So m can be replaced by the number of elements present in any basis is the dimension. So m is replaced by dimension of W, and n is n denotes the dimension of V. So there are two parts in the lemma. First part is established. Now to prove that dimension of V mod W is dimension of V minus dimension of W, we will have to have this argument. So since W1, W2 and so on Wm is linearly independent by lemma 4.2.2 and it can be extended to a basis. So we shall take the basis elements as W1 to Wm, x1 to xr of V, where if we add these two we'll have to get n. So m plus r equals n, but n is nothing but dimension of V, and m denotes dimension of W. So our r is now n minus m, which is dimension of V minus dimension of W. Now as W is a subspace of V, V mod W is a quotient space. So we can talk about the dimension of that also. Now to find what could be the basis for V mod W, we'll have to consider a subset in V mod W, and if you are able to establish that to be a basis, then we can find the dimension. Basis of what? Basis of V mod W. Then we can have what all we require. So for that we have x1 etc. xr to be present in V. So that gives us a hint that how we can choose our B. So that is chosen as x1 plus W, x2 plus W and so on xr plus W, which is obviously a subset of V mod W. Now we claim that B is a basis of V mod W, which means we have to show that B is linearly independent over F and B spans V mod W. So first we will establish that B is linearly independent to prove that B is a basis. So we will consider the linear combination of those vectors which are to be shown as linearly independent set of vectors. So we will consider the linear combination equate to the 0 element in V mod W, that's W, and rewriting this is what we have, and all this are using addition in V mod W. Now again, if we have small w plus capital W to be equal to W, then that small w will belong to capital W. So it is that result that's used here, that alpha 1 x1 plus and so on alpha r xr belongs to W. But W is spanned by, that is it has got these as bases, so any element in that can be uniquely written in this way. So as W1 etc. Wm is a basis of W. So we'll take, we'll retain this one side and bring all these terms to the other side. So this is what we have, and this in turn implies beta I is 0 minus alpha j is 0, and so we have W1, W1 etc. Wm, x1 to xr to be a basis of V. So that shows that B is linearly independent over F. So that proves the first subdivision. Next we prove that B spans V mod W. So for which we shall take an arbitrary element in V mod W. Then as W1 etc. Wm, x1 to xr is a basis of V. And this V can be uniquely written in this way. So V plus W, this right coset, I mean just a coset we can say. So we have this to be this plus W, and these can be absorbed with this W. So we have V plus capital W to be alpha 1 x1 and so on alpha r xr, beta 1 W1 and so on beta m Wm plus W, and so this in turn implies, because these are members of W, we have the whole lot to belong to W, so we have that to be simply W. So this is what we have, and by the definition of addition in V mod W, we have this step, and this is nothing but a linear combination of elements of B. So that shows that your B spans V over, or rather V mod W. So that proves the second subdivision. So next we have this corollary, which states that if A and B are finite dimensional subspaces of a vector space V, then A plus B is finite dimensional, and dimension of A plus B is dimension of A plus dimension of B minus dimension of A intersection B. If A and B are subspaces of a vector space V, then A plus B mod B, which is isomorphic to A mod A intersection B, and since A and B are finite dimensional, we get the dimension of A plus B minus dimension of B to be dimension of A minus dimension of A intersection B. So from this, dimension of A plus B is dimension of A plus dimension of B minus dimension of A intersection B. So that is what we need to establish. And the last corollary, if V is the direct sum of A and B, then we have a dimension of B to be dimension of A plus dimension of B. So just because V is the direct sum of A and B, this V is written as A plus B and A intersection B is singleton 0. But because A intersection B is singleton 0, the dimension of A intersection B will be 0. So that shows that dimension of V is dimension of A plus dimension of B.